Okay, so we can begin. What we did last time was a little bit of an introduction to Siman Tzadik Gimel in Hilchos Basar בחלב. Just reviewed a little bit the shitas on Tam Ke'ikar and Noisen Tam Lefgam. These are concepts that we covered in Hilchos Taaruvot that will also appear here in Basar בחלב. Tam Ke'ikar means that the tam itself is like the Ikar HaIsr, and that's how we paskin, it's the Raisa. And we reviewed a little bit the halachas of Noisen Tam Lefgam, which we'll come across it again. Most of it is in Taaruvot, Kuf Gimel, and of course that can make a difference, because even though you're dealing with the real Makoi, a real Isser, regardless of whether it's the Isser itself or the Keli, the Blias in the Keli, they can become Pogum. There are various ways on how we can arrive at Pugima, but the typical Pugima that we're going to be dealing with Kelim is something which is not Ben Yoima. Something which is not Ben Yoima means that it hasn't been used for 24 hours. That is how we paskin, because there are shitas that hold it's linas laila, like Rashi's shita, that if it's already past one night, somehow that one night does it to make it pogum. And this can make a big difference legabe de ma'achal, legabe de food that was by mistake, of course, it was by mistake, cooked in a kli that we didn't realize, but it was the wrong kli, whether it was a basar and we cooked chalav, or chalav and we cooked basar. The pogum, of course, affects tafshilim in other ways. When we're dealing with a real Isser, it's a real Isser. There's not enough to be mevatel the Isser, but the Isser is pogum. Whether it's pogum to begin with, it's completely rotten, not edible, or whether it's pogum the tafshil, there's something in the combination of the two that produces a very distasteful, flavor. So the halachas of a davar pogum, of course, are different for the various reasons. That this is not a real tam, not real meichel, not food, not royal achila. And of course this will make a difference also in Basar בחלב, like it does in Taaruvot. Except that in Basar בחלב we will be introduced to something that can overturn that which has become pogum. And that's called a davar chorif, something which is sharp, hot, spicy, that can undo the effects of evil. Somehow you could sweeten it up. So anyway, so that's what we covered in the Hagdama. Now we go into Siman Tzadik Gimel, which there's only one seif. We'll cover the Mechaber and some very interesting shitas or ideas that concern seif Aleph, and we'll cover the Ramah maybe Thursday. It's a long Ramah that talks about a few additional details. So we can just cover the Mechaber now. So maybe we'll read the Mechaber and then we'll go on to the various shitas and halachas that are somewhat included directly or indirectly in this. So Sifel Aleph reads Kedeo Shebishel Basar. If you have a pot that you cooked meat in, you made cholent in this pot, stew, and it doesn't have to be lots of meat. It could be fleishiks, just because there's a few pieces of meat in it. It renders the keli basari, fleishiks. So obviously you can't use this pot now, lo yivasher bo cholav. You cannot cook anything dairy. Dairy doesn't necessarily mean cheese and milk, anything that's dairy food in this pot. And what happens if one did in Bishaba, and it was metoch me'es le'es, and it was within 24 hours, so Mechaber points out me'es le'es. So also b'noisen tam. So the Isser will affect the heter b'nesinas tam. The sinas tam means if there is a tam. The Mechaber picks noisen tam. Why does he pick noisen tam? Because if you look at the Gemara in speaking about the various types of situations where Isser is found with heter, and you have this dilemma of what now, the Gemara proposes 3 venues of solving the situation. One is, if you're dealing with hetera, something which is mutter, like truma. It's mutter for the kohen, not for us, but it's heter, it's not a real Isser. So you can resolve the situation to see if there's tam, because tam ke'ikar, right? By asking somebody to taste it. Jew, a kohen, whoever is allowed to taste it. So the venue of tasting, of determining whether there is tam, is plausible, as long as, of course, it's a form of hetera that we're dealing with. Well, what if it's an isur? It's not truma. It's a real isur for everyone. Then you have an option called kefela or kapela. A kefela is a goy, a chef, or someone who is somewhat of an expert who can give us an honest opinion, hopefully, or Mesiach Lefi Tumor kind of an opinion, right? That this doesn't taste like what you think it tastes like. I didn't detect any milk, I didn't detect any isser of what you're thinking. It's min b'she'enu mino, of course, where that taste is detectable. So the second venue of making a determination if there is an isser is, since it's an isser, is using a goy, a kafela. So we see that is a possibility. The third option is when we're talking about b'minoi. Min b'minoi, then you cannot, and it's an isura, you cannot use tam of your own, you cannot use a kafela because you won't detect any difference. Meat with meat, kosher with treif. It's min b'minoi. So how are we going to know this one? This one we're going to figure out with shishim, because the Chachamim established that shishim for the most part takes care of most tamim. It was something that will give off tam, and tam is a problem, right? Will not give off that tam, or that tam will become neutralized through something called bitul b'shishim. Even though we have bitul b'roiv, there's a need for shishim to neutralize tam. In other words, once you have shishim, for the most part, you've done away with the tam, and the tam is not a problem anymore. So when do you need shishim? Well, today the Ramah will tell you we need even min b'she'enu mino because we don't rely on kafela. But that's the Ramah, and that the Kaf HaChaim says even for Sfardim they should rely on this shir called shishim. But me'ikar adin, Mechaber says you could use kafela, and in some cases you would. So these are the three venues of resolving a situation of Isser and Heter. The Makor, the source of this halacha that the Mechaber brings down over here, that you cannot cook dairy in a meat pot or meat in a dairy pot, is in the Gemara in Chulin Tzadik Zayin, if you want to look it up. That's where the sugyas of tam are found, and that's where you also see that there is a chiluk between the various possibilities or options on how to determine if there is tam. In other words, the Gemara speaks about ein begidin benoisen tam, a gid, the noshe does not really give off tam. The Gemara speaks about all those situations where tam is a problem. Now, all right, so we understand that you cannot mix the two. We understand that therefore you cannot use the pot for the two of them. But how do we know that there's a chiluk between the gdera bas yoima that gives off tam, and a gdera she'enu bas yoima, which b'di'evid, the food that was cooked in a gdera, in a pot that is not ben yoima, is okay because of noisen tam lefgam? That is a separate sugya in the Gemara of Avodah Zorah. Because over there you find the machloikes legavin noisen tam lefgam, and we paskin that we're meiko by noisen tam lefgam. That's how we hold. Noisen tam lefgam mutar. Not a lechatchila, right? And you want more details on this halacha of noisen tam lefgam? It's again in Hilchos Taaruvot, Siman Kuv Gimel, which we covered already. Now, what about the Isser of lechatchila cooking in a gdera she'enu bas yoima? It's einu bas yoima, you know it in advance. So there's an Isser lechatchila to cook in it, even though b'diavad is going to be water. That you also find in Avodah Zorah Ayin Vav. And over there, Gemara says clearly the reason for that gzera otu bas yoima or otu ben yoima. Now, it was a chachami, it's a midrabbanan. The chachami made a gzera that you should not lechatchila cook in a pot that has already a tam balua pogum, which is mutter b'di'evet. Yes, b'di'evet correct, but lechatchila don't do it. Gzera, what's the gzera? You may come to cook in a pot that is a ben yoima. Very simple. That's all. All right. Now, if that's the case, so Tosfos had a good kasha, and we spoke about it briefly last time. Kasha and Tosfos, and I think the Mikvaot brings down this Tosfos. It's a famous question. How come we say that food that was cooked in a pot she'enu ben yoima, you tell the balabosta you're safe today. You can go ahead and serve it for dinner. This food that was cooked in a treif pot that's not ben yoima, you're safe. How come we don't say, hey, make a gzera on the food, maybe it will be cooked, okay? Maybe nizbash is b'gzera ben yoima. In other words, forbid this food just in case something was ever cooked ben yoima. You know, as you come to eat this, you may come to eat something that was cooked ben yoima. We don't say that. But we do say that by a kedera, lechatchila, we can't use that pot. Somebody comes and asks, can I use this pot right now? No, I'm sorry, you have to make a gola to it. You can't use it, even though a week went by. Why? Because you may come to use it when it's a ben yoima. So, all right, we understood the gzera for the kedera itself not to use it. But why don't we apply the gzera for food? We're telling the balabosta, go ahead and use this food that by mistake, unintentionally, you somehow forgot, you didn't realize it was cooked in the wrong keli, it was treif, but the food is okay because it's in tam lefgam. Why don't we say no? don't eat it because of gzera of something having been cooked by mistake in a gzera that was ben yoima. Right? You saw? Just like with a keri, we don't do it because you may come to cook in a gzera sheben yoima. Why do we allow the food? But why don't we say on the food, gzera, maybe you come to eat from food that was cooked in a gzera ben yoima. All right, so what's the teres? The teres is simple. In a gdera, when it becomes also the first time around, right, it was a tam l'shvach. The isur was okay. It was a treif keli, all right? Or it was a fleishike keli, it makes no difference. It was the first time it became whatever it became, it was fresh. It was a fresh isur, okay? Now, so therefore, the Chachamim made a gzera. This tam that was l'shvach when you first cooked it, even though now it's pogrom, we don't let you cook in it because you may come to cook in a pot that has a fresh isur. No, it's a ben yoima. But with ma'achal, when you're cooking food right now in this pot, this food is already becoming pogrom right now. In other words, the food is heter, the food is mutter, the food is not a problem. The food is becoming pogrom as a result of being cooked right now. So it's already in a pegima situation. It's not, to begin with, you don't have the same problem as you have with the gdera. Yeah. Or isur, makes no difference.
I heard what you just said, it would
right.
make a difference. Because if when I cook this pot, it's a fleshy,
right.
that meat becomes absorbed.
Right.
So it's only becoming now that I'm cooking meat in this pot. When the meat was absorbed, the meat was absorbed, it was fresh. It was mikulkel. It was fresh meat. It wasn't no tentam nifgam, but it was also no isurin. It only becomes aser now that it combines with the milk, at which point in time it's just as much no tentam nifgam regarding itself as it is regarding the milk. So why would I make here now a chiluk and say the milk I'm allowed to drink because it's no tentam nifgam now that it became an iser? But the pot, I have to do hagala because it was already what? It was what? It was a perfectly good pot. There was no... Now, by Taaruvot, if it was an isser that became absorbed,
correct.
I can see your explanation.
You see that more by Taaruvot.
Basar בחלב, I don't understand how they work.
I agree with you. They do appear to be different, and that is why we will see a balaiter that I'll repeat that we saw last time, that apparently there is a tzad to say that the two are different. Because one is called heterobala, right? One is called heterobala. But nevertheless, the halacha over here is concerning the gdera we have, we understand that either way it's going to be also. The question is, why is the machal more mutter than the gdera, right? So the machal, in either way you want to say it, even though I understand what you're saying, the moment something becomes a fleishike pot, in a sense, it's already an isur legave de cholov. It has already absorbed something which is contrary to the cholov.
I don't treat the pot as an isser until I have that away.
Right, I understand.
Let me ask you a different question.
Sure.
When I cook in this pot, there's no milk inside yet.
Sure.
And the absorptions are now in this pot.
Okay.
If I cook in this pot before it's in binyomo, while it's still a binyomo,
okay,
the resulting milk will be the oraisa because
that's correct.
Is the oraisa.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, but if I cook the milk in there after the domonotentam nifgam,
right, it's not an isur d'oraisa anymore.
There is no isur d'oraisa involved here.
That's correct.
Whereas with respect to the pot right now, the cooking a pot that had fresh absorptions of cooking in that pot, there is no isur d'oraisa unless it's milk.
Yes.
Right. So maybe with respect to the pots, since I never have a situation of cooking in that pot as an oraisa, I don't have a situation in that pot as an oraisa because it's only absorptions.
Yes.
So maybe therefore there I need the atu because since I never have a nisa d'oraisa with this pot, it's a pretty kosher pot.
All right.
So I wouldn't be careful with it. Whereas I'm never going to confuse milk cooked in a fresh meat pot where I have an issa d'oraisa on this milk with a milk that was cooked in a pot that doesn't usher that milk.
Okay,
so I don't need a rabbanon there to protect me because the isser that I have on the milk, if it's in a fresh pot, is a very powerful isser, a d'oraisa isser.
Yes.
But with respect to the pot, I don't have such a powerful isser.
Okay.
Because there is no isser involved. It's a completely kosher pot. So therefore I need the atu in order to warn me against getting into the habit and they're inadvertently using a pot that is fresh and not an anal thing.
Yeah, but I understand what you said, but you understand that atu applies to either one.
There is only one. And the question is, with respect to the pot, I have an atu. With respect to the milk, I don't have an atu. I'm allowed to drink them.
No, I understand that. You're talking about the milk, the maichel, the food.
Right. Versus the the pot.
But you realize that the gzera of the rabbanon of atu applies either to a kli that became treif, that is treif, was from the velas, right?
I'm not talking about Taaruvot.
Right. Okay. All right.
Taaruvot I accept.
You accept, right. Right. So what you're saying is, basar b'chalav, there's a real atu by keli.
By keli, there's an
because the possibility of making a mistake.
So it's possible to make a mistake.
Okay.
But the Michael don't need an atu because the Michael is an Issur d'Oraisa. I'm going to be careful about an Issur d'Rabbanan when I'm not careful even about an Issur d'Oraisa. I already have an Issur d'Oraisa here.
Right. You could say that. Sure. Yeah. We're going to see something very similar to that in a minute. Yeah. Anyway, either way, by the Michael, it's less of a problem, but the Eva, because it's becoming pogum as it's being cooked right now. Versus something that has already become pogum, relying on that pegima lechatchila. It's a little bit different. Okay, but I like what you're saying because there's a din. Since you mentioned it, might as well mention it now. There's a din. The Mogen Avram in Orach Chaim brings down that meikar adin. Therefore, we would understand that it should be possible to make hagala from basar to chalav, from chalav to basar. No, but we forget that.
Something else?
Not something else. It should be okay, l'ch'ora, to make hagala every single time. On Monday, I want to eat fleishiks in this pot. Make hagala before you eat fleishiks. It's a Melicha pot. On Tuesday, I want to eat melichiks. I want to make hagala from the fleishik. So the Mogen Avram speaks about that, and he says, don't do that. And he brings down, what does he bring down? I think it just says nohagu. Nohagu, not to do it. Our custom is not to do this. Why? Because dilma osil mit'ay. You may come to make a mistake. Oh, what is it today? What was the last night? Did I make fleishiks or melichiks? Which one was it? So because you may come to forget what the last time use of this pot was, don't continuously change from basar to chalav, even though technically you can do it through a gala. But if I recall from somewhere, I think from Hilchos Pesach, the Chassam Sofer says that when you come to make hagala anyway for Pesach, then you can do it. We make hagala for Pesach anyway once a year. Sometimes you want to use a pot, you don't have a special pot, separate pot for Pesach. Then you could switch it. If it was a whole year for Melichiks, you need another fleishik pot, right? You need to make a big cholent, and it's only a Melichik. You can make that change right before Pesach. That's what he would allow that for. Okay, there you go. Okay, now, the Pri Megadim brings down something very interesting. He says, if you have a pot, which is a fleishik pot, you cooked meat in it, and within a me'es la'es, you cooked chalav, it's a problem, right? The raisa here, you have a problem here. Now, but, after that, instead of putting it away for hagala, by mistake, you went ahead and made chalav again, cooked chalav within a me'es la'es of the previous chalav. So he says the last bishul of chalav, right? You understand? Basar number 1. Then it was chalav within a me'es la'es of the basar. Then it was chalav within a me'es la'es. The first time around it was a me'es la'es.
So you have to get rid of the milk.
Right. So that's treif, right? And then somehow he cooked chalav again within a me'es la'es of the chalav, not of the basar. So he says it's asur be'achila midaraisa, but it's mutar behana. Why? He says because the second chalav, that is, the second chalav is also b'achila midaraisa and mutar behana. Why? Why is it mutar behana? He says because the second time chalav does not have a real bliya or a bishul of the first basar anymore. It only has a bliya of the chanan that became also in the dofane akdera, in the walls of the akdera. Interesting, no? So it says you would be able to sell it to a go. You had a lot of things cooking up by mistake in this basar b'chalav pot. So the second chalav is within the me'es la'es of the first chalav, but it's no longer me'es la'es from the basar. That's pogum. By the time you got around to cooking the second time chalav, it has a bliya of the chanan combination.
What if you were to cook for 24 hours?
Of the basar?
The original of the basar.
Same thing like the first chalav. There may be a little bit of a difference. We're going to soon see. According to the Rashba and according to the Balaiter, there may be a little bit of a difference. Yes. So that's a very interesting point. But without knowing anything else, and halacha l'maisa actually, if in your scenario the second chalav is also within 24 hours of the first basar, then it should be treif too.
The equal of the matter is,
Yeah.
I think scenario hana you should is less of the basar because then we usher also doing that. We don't expel hagala of the milk.
Yeah, but we didn't get that. No. That's
Okay.
one of the
No,
other.
but still, it should be about
Yeah.
hana. It should be hana should be mut because we say it doesn't. It's not appropriate that thing that usher should be able.
Yeah, okay. We're
That's
going to talk about that now. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Now, the Ben Ish Chai brings down, I saw, that there's no Isser min Torah to cook for a goy milk in his fleishike pot if it's not ben yoima.
If it's not ben yoima.
If it's not a ben yoima. In other words, there's no Isser basar v'cholav. You're not being over in the Isser basar v'cholav, right? So therefore, you can do it for a goy if you had to, for whatever reason. Cook for him, that is, for him, not for us. Cook for him in his pot, cholav in a basar pot that's not ben yoima. Because you're not being over on the bishul, on the Isser of basar v'cholav in this case. So let's finish the mechaber, then we'll go continue. So the mechaber says it's also benois in tam if you did cook within a meis leis, right?
That's the problem. If you want to pick my bottom, Ben Ish Chai.
Yeah, could. I didn't see all the premikodems. Yeah. So the mechaber said it's also benois in tam if you did it within a meis leis, cook in the pot of milk, or milk in the pot of meat in a pot of milk. Avalim shoha meis leis, but if you did wait 24 hours, kodim shabishabo have benois in tam lifgam umutar tavshil. Aval agdero asur levashel bo lo basar v'lo cholav. So lechatchila now you have a pot that has blias of basar b'cholav, right? Even though there may be pogrom later on at some point, right? Even though one is already pogrom because now you cooked milk after the meisles, so even though the mutar tavshil, you cannot use it for basar or for cholav later on. We will see that the Shach, the Ramo, everybody else seems to be saying that we pass in from later from Siman Tzadik Daled, for some reason, that even though the halacha is you can use it to cook potatoes, parv, this pot that has blias of basar pogum with cholav, but lechatchila we don't even use it for parv. In other words, you don't use that keli at all until you make hagala to it. So, but that's a chiddush. In other words, that's not meikar adin. Meikar adin, the mechaber says you could use it for other things, just not basar and not cholav. But you may use it if you need to. There's no iser. You want to cook fish in it. You want to make a filter fish, right? It's not anymore from the cholav, so because you don't want to have milk in your, right? It's a basar pogum. So the basar pogum with the cholav mixture in the pot is not a problem. For cooking other things, it is a problem for cooking basar or cholav. So mikra, then you could. So, but the Ramah, we'll see later on, says that the halacha is that we follow is that you don't use it for anything. All right. So that was the mechaber. Now let's quickly go to the Balaiter again. Balaiter says something very interesting. Let's say you have a situation where you cooked meat in a fleishike pot, but you had shishim connected the basar blias in the pot. Now, how could that ever be? Everybody asks. Rabbi brings it up. How could it ever be that you have shishim in the tafshil keneged the blias? Because usually most contents are not shishim keneged the blias in the k'deira, right? We spoke about it many times. So there are various scenarios. The Shach speaks about it. The Shach brings down several situations where you a big pot, thin walls, or he says that you know exactly how much it absorbed, which is a typical situation. It was just used within the last 24 hours for a certain specific amount that you are aware of, and the other amount that you're unaware of is more meis leis anyway. It's pogum, and you're only concerned about that which was cooked within the last 24 hours. That amount you happen to know. It was a little bit of meat. It wasn't. Most of it was vegetables, potatoes, and very little meat. So we're not talking about the whole tafshil, by the way. We're talking about the amount of basar that we're concerned. Okay, so anyway, so Balaiter says if you had shishim in that cholav, keneged the basar that was absorbed into the walls, you can go ahead now and cook whatever you want. Now, even though he says you can cook whatever you want, basar or cholav, it appears to be a little bit difficult to accept that. Some have a taina on this way of understanding the Balaiter, because how could you go ahead and cook basar now when the cholav was just made now? So he must be talking about cooking. You can go ahead and cook challah perhaps.
Well, as you pour it out before time to absorb.
Okay, yeah, then of course, yeah. That would be possible too if you poured it out, yeah. Anyway, so what happened? What is the main idea driving this? That the Baal HaItter holds that the chalav that by mistake is being cooked in this pot of meat actually acts as hagala. It's cooking. It's steaming. The retichas, the bubbles, it's going up. It's just like H2O. And therefore, it works to not only to be mevatel, the basar, to be in the pot. In the pot, it actually draws it out. It's mevatel everything that's within the walls. All right.
So now you pour it out. It's like you did halacha.
Yeah. Now the Tur has a problem with this Baal HaItter because the Baal HaItter's example concerned the kli cheres. That was where the Tur had a little bit of a problem with this, because had the Baal HaItter not used the kli cheres, he would have gotten maybe away with it. The Tur has a problem with kli cheres. We hold everybody pretty much everybody holds a kli cheres. You can't make hagala to it. So what's going on over here? So the Taz very nicely explains the shita of the Baal HaItter that it could be that what the Baal HaItter is trying to tell us is that the whole idea that kli cheres you cannot make hagala to, that's a derabanan. Did you know that? That the kli cheres you cannot make hagala. Well, that's a derabanan.
Yeah, because the rise is only by question.
Yeah, right. It's a chiddush, right? So the fact that you cannot make hagala by kli cheres, that's a derabanan. So therefore, in the Torah there was already hagala. Just that the chachamim were machmir. And there's another derabanan. The other derabanan is that you cannot be mevashel in a kli she'eino ben yoimoy. Remember, the Chatri just said that you cannot be mevashel in a kli she'eino ben yoimoy. That's also derabanan. So the Baal HaItter wants to be mechadish when you're talking about hetera bala, only hetera, basar or chalav. Allow for the kli cheres. It was allow for this kind of a situation that we should not be machmir in a kli cheres. Since kli cheres is like a di'evet, it is difficult to take it out. So allow for it, and here it will work. But he is maskim that if this would not be hetera bala, if it would be a real iser nevela of the raisa, right? Then of course you wouldn't allow this thing. So he wants to be makel by hetera. That's the main chiddush of the Baal HaItter. Since we're dealing with hetera, basar or chalav, and the whole thing of kli cheres, agola with kli cheres is derbanan. The whole thing of kli sheino ben yoimo is that you cannot cook lechatchila is a derbanan. So you have all these derbanan. So he says allow for it by hetera. Yeah. All right. Anyway, that's the Baal HaItter. Let's go on. There's a very interesting chochma sodom. I'm not sure if I mentioned it last time, but this can come in handy. Very, very handy. That let's say you do have a situation. Forget about kli cheres for a moment. Let's go back to the real stainless steel pot. You have a stainless steel pot that you cooked chalav, and the following day you cooked basar, and all of a sudden you say to yourself, wait a minute, I'm not sure if it was a me'es or not. What now? So the Chochmah Sodom says, you know that the night went by, it's the following day, but you don't know if it was me'es le'es. So he says you have a sfek sveka. He says only in a hefset and ruba can you rely on a sfek sveka here that says like this. What's a sfek sveka? It's a safek me'es le'es. And even if it wasn't me'es le'es, it wasn't 24 hours. Maybe we hold like Rashi that lina slaila is sufficient. I remember Shita of Rashi that you don't need 24 hours. Maybe the 9 hours. So this is a very interesting psak that can come in handy when there's any doubt about the amount of time that has. Sometimes we don't know exactly when we cooked. She doesn't remember. She's in the morning, the afternoon, but she knows it was the following day. So there you may have it. But that's only in a hefse maruba. I thought it was an interesting halacha. Yeah.
Didn't we have some conditions? Fakers had to.
Nisapech.
Be dealing with the
same issue, right? Yeah.
Isn't here this? One is with respect to the lilacs taken.
Right.
And I don't know if the full amount the same thing.
No, but you can start with Rashi. Maybe Lina Slider is sufficient, and if it's not, maybe the 24 hours did go by, and I have what is required. I don't think it would be a problem because it's a nishap. Either way, one of the conditions for sfek to work is that from either angle you could look at it. It works. I start with the argument, I don't know if it was 24 hours, and if it was not, Linas Laila could be enough. Or I can start with the argument, maybe Linas Laila is enough, and I'm okay. But even if you say it's not, maybe there was 24 hours. So I think it should be I think it's okay. I think so, yeah. There is a question that comes up later on in Taaruvot that we spoke about in Dover Sheyesh Lo Matir. When you have a pot that requires a gala, it has a mixture, it's treif, and you lost it. You don't know which one it is. It's mixed up. A pot, a spoon, anything that got. Oh no, where is it? You put it back in the shelf. Now what? So we spoke about it. That's one of the seif, one of the halachos in Hilchos Aruf by Dover Sheyesh Lo Matir. Remember, Dover Sheyesh Lo Matir means that sometimes something can become permissible with time. Just wait, or by doing something to it, and then you avoid the problem. So the Shach and Taz seem to be machmir in this kind of lechatchila, at least, that if at all possible, go ahead and make hagala to all the kelim. Imagine, what if you have a lot? So they say, the Meforshim explain that if it's too much of a bother, too much of an expense, it's just too difficult to do, then you don't have to do it. But the Shach and Taz seem to say that if it's not, you should do it. You should not just say, it's okay, it's bottle, it's not a real Dover Sheyesh Lo Matir anyway, it's not a question of time, it's not a typical Dover Sheyesh Lo Matir, right? So they seem to be saying that if it's not a big deal, you should do hagala to all the pots, or to all the spoons and forks, whatever it is. Anyway, always make sure if you have a spoon or fork or pot, put it away in the side, or take care of the hagala right away, because it could easily, the maid or somebody could put it back. Then there may be an issue, there may be a question, there may be a problem here. Yeah. Okay, just to finish up, what I want to do now is go over a very interesting sugya with the Rashba. I thought this was really, really very interesting, and it's worth to spend a little bit of time instead, without having to go to the Ramah right now. We saw the Mechaber's Shita about that, what you could do lechatchila, what you cannot, but what happens if it's nois and tam of God? Okay, that was clear. Now, the Rashba goes out on a little bit of a tangent, let's say it. And he learns from the Gemara in Avodah Zarah over there that any kli, pot or pan, that absorbed hetera through either cooking or through roasting. And what happened is, as you know, with kochim is a hetera in a sense. It's mutter for the time being. When does no kochim, korbanos of the kochim become a problem? If it becomes noisar, if it's left over after the forbidden amount of time, that's a real big problem. It's a real issue. All right, so let's say that this pot or pan or whatever absorbed the kochim, and then you cooked something else in that pot before shegias manisura. So there, he seems to be saying that the whole problem that he's going to address now concerns before this mana isur came by. Okay, now what? Well, comes along this mana isur, there's nothing left. Why? Because what you cooked before this mana isur was a hagala for the isur, for the future isur. In other words, whatever was nivla in the walls of the kedera is gone. Even though there may be some minute amount, says for our purposes and our halacha and our dinim here, there's no isur left. You hear? That's a famous Rashba. And this Rashba sounds familiar because of the Bala Iter that we just learned. So keep that in mind. Remember the Bala Iter just now that we had? With Hetera Bala, you use milk as a hagala, as a means of hagala for the pot. Right? They appear to be similar. And the Beis Yosef is going to ask a big question on this. Okay, remember, the Bala Iter spoke about the scenario of milk being cooked in a pot and acting as hagala to the meat that was there. It says it weakened. It already did some hagala to whatever was there. And why did he allow for it? Because it's hetera bala. Okay? Now, so the Rashba seems to be saying something similar. He says you went ahead and cooked vegetables. You went ahead and cooked something. Hetera, not milk. So, by the time the Isser arrives, the following morning, whatever, there's nothing left. Why? The Isser was niflat. Now, even though the Chiddush is, there's another Chiddush really, there's 2 or 3 Chiddushim in what he says, but that's mashma from the Gemara too, it's not his. That even though it was absorbed through fire, roasted, since it was hetera by kochim, we're samech on Hagala. That's a beautiful, a very big chiddush. In other words, what happened here, it usually keboilo kach poltoi. What?
You would normally need libben.
You would normally need libben if that's how it was used for. It was used with fire, you need fire. Used with hot water, use hot water. So the chiddush here is, and that's Gemara really says, that you have a Hagala here, and the Hagala is permissible. Why? Because it was a hetera. Because we're dealing with something that was mutter, that was absorbed, samchinon, we're samech on the Hagala. But wait a minute, what if you don't have Hagala Gemura? You know, the whole pot was used for korbanos. And here, all the way to the top, to the rim, and here you used it a little bit, maybe just 2-3 inches from the bottom. That's not a real Hagala. I mean, Hagala, even if you say Hagala helps where libben is needed, but I would expect Hagala of the whole keli, then I would agree possibly. No. He says, even if you didn't do Hagala for the whole keli, that's really, I call that the third chiddush. Mikol mokom niklash, he says, habalua shebechol keli. The whole balua in the entire keli has become weakened as a result. That little bit of water did it? Yes, because of the klal of chamik tzosoi cham kuloi. When you have heat in metal, part of the metal is hot, so is the rest of the metal. Part of the metal is the blias are being extracted from it, so are the blias from the rest of the pot being extracted a little bit. And then there's no Isra left. He says at least there's no Isra left, even though all you did was Hagala, where ribbon is required, and even though you didn't do Hagala to the whole keli.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's terabola.
There's nothing left could become Isra.
Right. There's nothing really.
Do it before it turns Isra.
Right. So far from what we understood in the Rashba was talking about in that case, if he's using the case of Kochim, where it was all done before it became an Isra. Okay. Now, the Rashba wrote this. The Tur brings this down, and the Tur doesn't have a problem with it. He doesn't argue with this. Basically, there's a similar scenario, and it's like this. You have a pot that you cooked Basar, and then, within 24 hours, you cooked your rakos. You cooked vegetables. And he says, the same Rashba, says that this is all based on his previous din, you can now go ahead and cook cholov. Why? Because the rakos diluted or did away with the tam of the basar. In the Ma'aseh, we find that a lot of points can deal with this particular scenario. We don't deal with the kochim as much, right? It's not relevant. Right. But they deal with this example, which is a similar example, similar scenario taken from the other one. All right. So let's say we accept it because the Tur does not argue on this one. The Beis Yosef, however, has a problem. He says, wait a minute. A problem with the Tur. The Tur doesn't argue on this Rashba, but wait a minute. Kvod Harav, a Tur. You didn't like the Balaiter. You said,
right.
We don't go by that. The Tur doesn't go by the Balaiter. He says, we don't hold like that. There's no Hagala for Klecheres. Forget the whole thing. Nobody holds like that. Okay. This is very similar. Beis Yosef asks a question on the Tur. Mm-hmm. Here you didn't put up an argument. You didn't put up a fight. Right, with this Hagala business. Right, that it works. It's very similar to the Balaitus. What could be the difference? So the Beis Yosef himself, in the Taz, by the way, also is maskim, Nekudas HaKesef is maskim, but the Rashba, you know what the difference is? You can point to two differences between this Rashba and the Balaitus. The Rashba never spoke about Klicheres. He only said his heter in a regular kalim. One of the big chedushim of the Balaitus was that this is possible even with the Klicheres. That's where not everybody will go along with him. But the Rashba, you can see clearly, he's not talking about Klicheres, he's talking about Kedera, he's talking about Bishul, he's talking about, totally different situation. And the Balaitus includes Klicheres. So obviously there is a difference between, no doubt about that. But the Beis Yosef also writes that the Rashba is dafka speaking about something parve that was cooked, like yerokos. The Rashba does not say what the Balaitis says, that even if you cooked milk,
right.
The Balaitis was mechadash that even if you used milk as a form of agala, you would be okay. So you see two very big differences between the Rashba and the Balaitis. Obviously, that's why the Tur doesn't argue on this Rashba, because the Rashba is only talking about regular kelim, not klicheres, And number two, the Rashba does not say you cooked milk in it. You cooked shar dvarim, yerokos. Whereas the Balahita said if you had shishin keneged the balahita, with chalav, it would be sufficient. Anyway, the Dr. Moshe, I think, agrees with this second explanation, that we're not talking about milk here, we're talking about shar dvarim, that should not be a problem. If that exactly happened, in other words, even though not everybody goes along with the Rashba, by the way, we'll see that soon, but in principle, it makes sense what he says. This is all taken from the Gemara. The din is taken from the Gemara. That there could be such a thing. The only thing is that what happens next is that there appears to be a little bit of a difference between the way the Gemara is understood and the Rashba is understood. There is another Taz. I think it's the same Taz, yeah. The Taz asks a question. The Taz, who brings down the kasha of the Beis Yosef on the tour, he has a question like this. In Siman Tzadik Daled, the tour over there, I think, brings down the Sefer HaTrumas that holds the scenario there is that if you cooked water, just plain water, you wanted, I don't know, to make coffee, you cooked water in this pot within the 24 hours. Over there, it's not mashma that the water is maklish, in other words, or machlish, the tam de blias in the wall. Why not? Why should the water be any different than Yerokos, an example of the Rashba? He says, the Torah, in quoting that, says it doesn't work. Well, here you didn't say it doesn't work, you accepted it as a fact. Why would there be a difference between that and this? A good question. So the Taz brings it up, based on what the Torah says here. It doesn't seem to be saying there the same thing. So I saw that there is a chiluk between there's two ways of understanding this Taz, or this question. One is the way the Pri Megadim understands it, and one is the way the Yad Yehuda understands it. The Rashba is talking about that he cooked Yerokos in a Gdera exactly the same shear that he cooked Basar. So what does it mean that he cooked the Yerokos exactly the same shear? Does it mean the exact amount of food in the pot like the Basar? Is that what he meant by the exact same shear? Or does it mean the amount of time? So I was saying the Pri Megadim seems to be understanding in this Rashba, if the Rashba is talking about, if that's the way we take it, that the Chiddush is that the Yerokos were in the Kedera cooked Kashir Shabishal Ba Basar, so the Pri Megadim says it must be talking about the Shir Hazman, the same amount of time, whereas the Yad Yehuda says it's the same Shir Kamut, it's the quantity. Anyway, the Halacha, the Ashach seems to be a big fan of this Rashba. Everybody else does not necessarily, and we don't apply it halacha l'maisa. I didn't see that we applied this halacha l'maisa, but the Shach says, the halacha is like the Rashba. Everybody else doesn't seem to go along with the Rashba. I mean, not halacha l'maisa at least. We're machmir. But the Shach seems to be saying that Allah is like him. But what's interesting is what did the Rashba really mean when he said that you cook the vegetables for the same the same shiur shebishlu bo basar. I mean, I think I would think it means the amount of food. No? I mean, but the Pri Megadim says it's the amount of time. Anyway, that's the difference between Pri Megadim and Yad Yehuda and understanding the Rashba.
The interesting question would be, even if he holds it's the amount,
right?
So it takes a certain time to absorb a certain quantity, at the same time to give off the same quantity.
Right.
Could say that.
One could say that, yeah.
But the Pri Megadim should be worried about the quantity, the volume.
The volume, yeah. Unless he holds like he even didn't have a lot, it's cham kuloi, like the Rashba himself said before.
But with a minimum quantity in the water in order to be able to absorb.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can say here you don't need 660 in the water. No. You don't need 6 water. So
no.
Since you don't need in the water, you can say that certain on a level of 1 things 1, the normal can you have enough water to be as much as, since it's 1 to 1 and not 60 to 1.
What do you want to want?
Well, if you pour in water in the pot, probably enough water in the pot to have much water in it that you all of
as opposed to if you didn't have water?
As opposed to if you need 60. We say 60.
Or if you need 60, yeah.
If you need 60, we say it's very unusual.
Right,
enough water, but you need just one, maybe
yeah.
Check yourself the wall.
Since it's hetero, I mean it's heterobola.
Right.
Well, one thing for sure happens is there seems to be a consensus that something does happen to some of the blias as a result of anything being cooked there.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, then why would water be any different? So unless it's talking about that the water wasn't cooked long enough, or wasn't the amount of time. Whereas here, it could have been, the Rashba's example was that it was long enough. All right. One more idea. If you look at the Shach inside, it appears to be that he believes that the Ikar Chiddush of the Rashba is the Terabola, since it's a Terabola, that we're Somech on the Hagola, the Mokum Libun. Now it is definitely a Chiddush, that we're Somech on Hagola b'mkom Libun, in the Gemara. But it doesn't, that's what the Shach seems to be saying. But the Yad Yehuda asked the question I saw here, that's not really the Chiddush of the Rashba, that it's just that we're Somech on Hagola b'mokum libun. What's the Ikar Chiddush? In his example of the Rashba, especially example of Yerakos, he actually says you cooked Basar, and then you cooked Yerakos. So forget about libun. There's no situation here of libun, of Hagolah b'mkom libun. So the Chiddush is that even though it was bishul within a certain amount of time, it simply acts like a good Hagolah. In other words, you don't need to say, he says, that it's Hagolah works instead of Libun. No. That's not the point he's trying to make. The point he's trying to make is that they were both Bishul. And since he was talking about a Tera, the second Bishul apparently acted as Hagolah. So it's not that the Chiddush is not, that's, in other words, don't emphasize Hagolah worked instead of Libun, which is true, but that's not what the Rashba is being mechadish so much. It's more than that. All right. But then, there's one more thing in the Shach. The Shach writes that the kula of the Rashba, that Hagolah is b'mokum libun, the that kula, nevertheless, he says, the Shach seems to be saying that you need Hagolah Gemura. So that's another little issue in the Shach, that if you look in the Rashba inside, he's soisem. He doesn't seem to be making a chiluk whether you need Hagolah Gemura or not. He just says that Chanami, that Hagolah is possible, but that you need a Hagolah Gemura, that's not seen from the Rashba. Now we do find in the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, towards the end there, that every day can become a gil for the previous day. We find that Rav Ashi adds that there's an additional kula, that in Hetera we're Somech on Hagolah b'mokum libun. But what's the Chiddush? We know that already. The Chiddush over there is that not only are we Somech on Hagolah b'mokum libun, over there it seems to be saying from the Gemara that this is also true even le'achar zman ha'isur, which is not what the Rashba says. The Rashba's din, at least in the original, is that he was talking about a situation where the Isur was not chal yet, right? Before it became noisar. Okay, it's gone. By that time it's gone, there's nothing left. But if you look at the Gemara, it seems to be that it would also be, even afterwards, once you're soymech on behetera, once you're soymech on Hagolah b'mokum libun, that could also help you even le'achas man ha'isur.
In other words, the moiser.
Yeah.
Hagolah instead of libun.
Right. There are many Rishonim who actually say that it would help. It's not necessarily like the Rashba puts it, but the thing is, why would the Rashba only mention it? It's a little bit shver, to understand why the Rashba is picking on a nekuda, even though I guess you could learn it that he says that there for sure is no problem. You're not over on anything. Maybe he's picking on a different kind of a nekuda here to stress, but as far as whether it will help or not, once you say the idea works, like the Maskanot Gemara, then say that it works later on too. So why would the Rashba choose to emphasize that point? It's a question. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm bringing it down. It's a question.
But it is kind of plausible, because if I'm doing the Hagolah at the time it has it,
right,
I'm requiring the water to reduce the effect of Leah to the point where it will no longer become an Isser.
Right.
Whereas if it's a Isser, now I'm requiring the same Hagolah to remove the Isser.
Right.
Now to weaken the absorption to the point that it will no longer become an Isser is certainly an easier task.
And that's why the Rashba was Mekel on that, maybe. You're right, it could be. That's the way I understood it the first time around. The kulo was because it's hetera. But
what I'm requiring of this Hagala to accomplish indistinct things.
Right, of course, yeah.
There's more room to be made. Where all I'm requiring is to its presence point where it will no longer become an Isser.
Yeah.
Then in the second instance where I'm requiring the same Hagala to remove an Isser.
Right. Yeah. So we have to actually really look at inside a little bit more, then why would it help then? But anyway, it looks like that's the halacha, the maisa, that at least b'di'evet, you always need libun, for libun. That we're samech an hagala letzorech libun. So over there it appears to be even shekvar chal ha'isur. I have to look into it a little bit more, maybe. Interesting, I have to look into it a little bit more. Anyway, this is not exactly the halacha of the Rosh. The Rosh spoke about only the scenario was before it became an isur. And obviously, then we would have to understand why the Shach doesn't just make a distinction. If this is the case, the Shach doesn't make any mention of whether it's before Chal and Isser or later.
Maybe one possible argument could the Isser we're talking about is not an Isser, but rather an Isser stated by the time.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, it's a different kind. Okay, but I don't want to just rely on my memory.
In other words, the Hagala would fail if Isser, because now a Hagala can't help anymore with something that requires Liban.
Right.
But that's present, or that's present.
It's kolosh enough not to constitute an Isser. That's what I was thinking as we were talking. But could be. Still tzorech here in a little bit. Yeah. Anyway, the halacha lemaisa, from the tour, we see that he passes like the Rashba. Same thing with the Shach. And I think the Chavas Das, I don't remember for sure, but the Chavas Das goes even to the extent of saying that if you had cholov being cooked, and there was shishim connected to Basar Balua, that it would also achieve the weakening of the Tama Basar. And you would be able to cook cholov afterwards. So I think he goes to that extent. But we don't hold like that. But as far as the Rashba, halacha l'maaseh, we see that there's quite a few poskim who hold like that, even though not everyone agrees that this should be halacha l'maaseh. Okay, I think we'll stop here. I'll see you later with the Ramah. Yeah.